Hi, everybody. This is Jonah. We are here today live, streaming live here with another episode of Moving Women Forward Community Podcast. We have a special guest. You will see the name of the tag name on the screen, Annette. But I will leave the floor to Annette very shortly. Allow me just 1 second to do the introductions of who we are, what we do, and how we help you in your business. So we are the Moving Women Forward community. We have one simple mission to help 100 women in 100 days. We are not there yet with 100 women. We are there with 100 days, but we will help you from feeling stuck to empower, amplifying your voices through expert-led support, accountability, brainstorming sessions, visibility opportunities, and why not meaningful networking opportunities. So, Annette, the floor will be yours in a second. I'm going to say very quickly what your job title is. Basically, cognitive behavior hypnotherapist who helps professional women overcome confidence challenges, and live a life they truly love without limitations. Now the floor is yours. Without further ado, please tell us what you do, what inspires you to do what you do, and we will crack on with the questions. Thank you, Annette, for being the guest today.
Oh, well, thank you, Jonah, for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here and to be talking to your community. And moving women forward is a topic that I'm very passionate about too. So I think it's brilliant. So, women supporting others to achieve is a fantastic vision. So yes, I'm Annette Williams, and my business is Silverbrook Hypnotherapy, and I'm a cognitive behavioural hypnotherapist. I'll explain a little bit more about what that is, but first let's rewind, because I pivoted career about 3 years ago. And prior to that, I'd spent 38 years working for the BBC. So I had a very long career as a creative within the BBC, specialising in children's programmes. And when I left at the end of 2022, I was head of children's factual programmes. And in all honesty, it was a fabulous career. I loved it. I loved making content for the audience and allowing them to get a better understanding of the world and their place in it. But all good things must come to an end, and multiple restructures, as in any corporation. And my role was made redundant, which was equally scary and exciting at the same time, because I thought, well, I still want to work. What do I want to do? And I actually changed into two different career paths. I started lecturing at Salford University, still teaching in the TV world, so teaching the next generation of studio producers. And I also set up my own business. So I'd gone from working in an organization of multiple thousands of people to working by myself, and I became a cognitive behavioral hypnotherapist. And I specialize in helping women, professional women, live to their full potential by helping them unblock some of the barriers that are holding them back from standing up, speaking out, and achieving their dreams. And I've chosen this niche as an area to specialize in because it draws on the expertise I got in TV, because I spent decades helping people feel, behave, and think more confidently. And those are really transferable skills. And now I have additional skills like therapeutic skills, creative problem solving, and obviously hypnosis in there as techniques I can use to help the individual client unlock their potential. So actually, I've got now a very different career, but one that is equally rewarding, because ultimately it's doing the same thing. It's improving, helping other people to improve their lives. So in TV, it's about opening their eyes to the wider world, and in cognitive behavioral hypnotherapy, it's about going into themselves and seeing what are their thoughts, what are the actions that our subconscious is doing without even our knowledge, and asking yourselves, is it helpful to still think, feel, or behave in that way? So yeah, it's I've had a long career in one industry, and I'm relatively new in lecturing and in hypnotherapy, but I'm loving it.
Loving hearing all these things about you and about your career and how everything blends together after all. So one skill is transferable, the other one becomes transferable after when the synergy is there and the work is all together put in a system and in a structure, obviously that brings everything all in one pot.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So we've had other guests, as we spoke briefly earlier, Annette, talk about how these transferable skills can be used, why people are not there yet in using these skills and bringing them to the most of their business, or maximizing the effort and the knowledge that they have around these skills. So what can be one of the effective ways you can talk us with?
Well, I had to go through exactly the same process because I was absolutely a specialist expert in children's TV. And when looking for what to do outside of that world, my first thought, well, how transferable are my skills? But then I literally sat down and I wrote down things about my old job that I enjoyed. And it was always, there were many of the soft people skills about communicating with people. It was about telling stories. It was about active listening. It was about encouraging people to look at things from different perspectives. In TV, that may have been about having a program idea and just making sure you've thought about it properly as to how it could work the best rather than just jumping in with the first idea. But likewise, that is a skill where you can look at a problem and weigh up the different pros of cons and different approaches. But I needed to sit down and write down what are the things, and you will be, I know people will be surprised because they think, oh, I work in accounts. I've worked in accounts for however long, but there will be skills. There will be things that you enjoy doing. You know, if you work in accounts, I've never worked in accounts, but immediately that suggests to me that you're very, very organized. You're very, obviously you've got a good head for figures, but you are good at meeting deadlines. You're good at presenting information in a certain way. And those are transferable skills to a different area. But often when you're in the midst of it, you don't recognize those as transferable skills. So a good way is to write them down. Another good way is to ask somebody you trust, what am I good at? And you might be pleasantly surprised as to the answers they come up with. And they may not be all things that you would necessarily write on a CV because they're not really measurable, but to know that you're a good listener, to know that you are resourceful, to know that you are organized, that you are a great communicator, you explain things really clearly. Hearing all of that being said back to you will make you appreciate that those are skills that you have, and they are things that you can be now aware of and mention and use to bolster your skill toolkit. So yeah, some internal work you need to do yourself, and I do recommend speaking to others, because you're always pleasantly surprised as to the skills that you have that other people appreciate and value, and those are very transferable skills.
Amazing. I've noticed in our community, we're running accountability sessions. So they're brainstorming sessions when we go through not just goal setting. It's obviously it's around digital marketing most of the time, but we have other business goals, so they are there for one reason. So when we talk about these goals, and we go through the goals and keep the members on track of what they are going to achieve or what they've done so far in their progress. One of the things that it struck with me is very interesting is how much you mentioned that just a couple of minutes earlier, that it's how much when you share something, you are more prone to keep up with that, or to recognize either what the difficulty is or what are you doing so far in order to achieve your goal or whatever you are planning in your business. So it's really important that you ask someone, not necessarily for an advice,
Yes.
but you talk through or you share what you have to share. Is it right, Annette?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we can't exist in a vacuum and function properly in a vacuum. And I found that a real challenge. In TV, I would head up teams of, 50, 60 people. So there was always, a handy sounding board around you, people you could bounce off and share ideas with. And when I came to working for myself in Silverbrook Hypnotherapy, that wasn't there. And I had nobody to sense check ideas with, or I'm an extrovert thinker. I need to think externally and get that energy back for me to be inspired. So I had to go out and I had to find networking groups where I felt I could fit in well and would challenge me, and join other groups where you're I was just on a call on a Zoom just before this, and it's a group that I'm in about visibility, and every week we have a list, and you're held accountable. So have you done what you said you were going to do? Because it's very easy to slip, especially when you're working by yourself, because nobody else is checking on you and that you're doing things. So finding those networks, finding those groups like yours, finding those memberships that you can belong to, where they hold you to account. And that's not to add more pressure to what you're doing. It's actually to support you, because nobody likes letting anybody down. So if you know that you're going to go to the next meeting and you've got to report back on what you've done, and you want to be there and you want to be supporting the group, and it does motivate you. So I think I absolutely prioritize networking when I set up my own business, because the contacts, the relationships, the shared experience that you get from being in groups like that is invaluable, and it helps you grow.
Absolutely. Now, going back to being accountable and sharing and understanding and being there, but what about when we are in this chaotic, chaotic whirlwind of information, of things to do, or planning, or even implementing, or actually doing business? So we have to actually do the work. How can women stay calm when every time everything around feels uncertain, chaotic, too many places, too many things to learn, to do, and to go?
I mean, you just described the situation that many women find themselves in perfectly there. So many plates to keep spinning, and not knowing what to prioritize, and actually feeling like you're barely keeping up with what you're doing. And what I recommend in that instance is to ground yourself in the moment. Now, people have heard different techniques. There's different words like mindfulness, there's meditation and things like that. But the science behind that is we feel out of control when we start thinking into the future. This might happen, this could happen. And that sense of catastrophization snowballs and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so the antidote to that is to very much be grounded in the present. And it comes back to a couple of things. Breathing. When we get anxious, when we feel stressed, when we feel under pressure, something physical is happening within inside our body. It's the fight or flight response kicking in. And that has a physiological impact on us where we can't actually function as well, because your body is priming itself to get out of this perceived fear, and whether that's somebody coming at you in a about to run you over, or whether it's a pressure that's all in your mind. Your body responds to that fear and takes over. So your heart starts racing, your blood isn't, and your brain isn't being fed with as much oxygen and as much blood supply, so you can't think as clearly. You get that knot in your stomach. So your body is physically reacting to that. And the way to counteract that is to ground yourself in the moment. And so it's a breathing techniques, and there are many. Some people like doing box breathing, where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then pause for 4. And that's really good, because you have to count. You have to breathe and you have to count. So that is drawing you into the minute. Other breathing exercises that you can do are the inhaling for 7 and exhaling for 11, because it's the exhale, which is where our body relaxes and brings down your heart rate, gets your breathing level back to a less panicky thing. And then another good exercise is, and there are different versions of this, but the one I like to teach and what use with my clients is called 5 things. So a really good way to ground yourself in the moment is to stop and look at 5 things that you can see, and not just 5 things that you know are around you, to properly look at them, to engage your other senses. So 5 things, and you say them out loud. So I can see my lamp, I can see a cup, I can see my pen pot, to say that. Then you do 5 things that you can hear. And this often, depending on your environment, can take a bit of time, because you're tuning in your other senses. So you're turning down that panic response and you're tuning up your senses. 5 things you can hear, and then 5 things that you can feel against your skin. People might go, oh, what do you mean by that? But it's taking the time to think, can you feel? I can feel the light. I can feel the light on shining on my skin. I can feel the chair that I'm sitting in. I can feel some of the clothes that I'm wearing. I can feel that my fingers are a bit cold, because I don't switch the heating on until October.
Not
So
yet.
yeah, not yet. So, but tuning in, using those other senses grounds you in where you are now. Other people like to meditate. I find it quite hard to meditate. Other people like to go out in nature and just actively look around. But people may think, oh, I haven't got time to do that. But making time to ground yourself in the present will give you that clarity of thought where you're able to then look at what's coming up and all the other things that you're juggling and all those plates that you're spinning, and come up with a better approach, or something that will be a much better outcome. So it's not a waste of time. It's absolutely essential for your own well-being and to recalibrate your system, because once you start in that fight or flight cycle, it will just keep going and it will just keep escalating. You need to stop it. And the way to do that is breathing, mindfulness, being present in the moment. And that will give you that distance that you need to be able to see things with more clarity and in perspective.
Very, very helpful and insightful. I really like the steps. They are easy to say, right? They sound
Yeah.
easy, but you've got to do the work at the end of the day. Am I right? So
Yes. Yeah. But you have to do it. And with a breathing, 1 minute of box breathing will have that physical effect within your body. So the panic will go. And then once the panic's gone, because when you're in a panic mode, you can't think clearly and things do feel overwhelming. And then you panic more because you're going to feel like you're never going to get on top of the situation. So it's important to recognize when that's happening and nip it in the bud as quickly as you can.
amazing. Thank you, Annette, for sharing your experience and your skills and your knowledge here with us anyway today. But so we talked about being grounded. Now I want to understand a little bit more, if we can go into a little bit more detail about how to build this confidence when we are transitioning from one moment to the other. So now we are grounded, but it's the moment where we are transitioning to another step or a different phase of life, business, or even the day. Throughout the day, we go through everything basically. Uh, so, what is one of the ways? How can we build these moments of resilience and
Well,
confidence?
you won't be surprised. It all comes back to our mental mindset, and a lot of that is what is our inner voice saying to ourselves. And we are the results of our upbringing and our experiences and the things that we've been exposed to, good and bad. So we are shaped by our things that happen to us. And interestingly, we're only born with two fears. And people go, oh, surely it's more than that. No, we are born with the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. And these are fears that are meant to keep you alive. So every other fear, phobia, worry, all of those negative thoughts are things that we have learned, absorbed from our environment, our upbringing, our culture, all these different things that influence us. And I think once you realize that, that's a big breakthrough, by realizing that if you've learned a behavior or learned a feeling, you can unlearn it. And then on top of that, it's recognizing what are the common habits that we've fallen into in terms of the way we think about situations, and we call them thinking errors. And it's things like catastrophization is one of them, where something's happened and already in your mind you automatically go to worst case scenario, or seeing things in very black or white. Something's either good or it's bad. And we don't live in a black and white world. We live in a world of grey. And by seeing things as simply right or wrong, good or bad, is actually you're missing a whole thing. So, well, actually, there's some learning from there. Maybe that didn't work as brilliant as you want to. But if you're in the habit of thinking black and white terms, you miss a lot of that learning and that education. And then also assessing where are we? We all have a comfort zone that we like to exist within. Clues in the title, it's our comfort zone. And if you think of it as concentric circles, you've got your comfort zone in the middle. And then outside of that, you've got the growth zone. And then outside of that, you have the danger zone. Now, going straight from your comfort zone to danger zone is scary. That's too much of a leap. So the best way to do that is to try and expand your comfort zone, where you are now and the things that you are comfortable with, and expand that comfort zone into the growth zone. And by doing that, that is about learning new skills. The technology that maybe previously you were a bit scared of, starting to get ahead of that, starting to understand it. And so by gradually expanding your comfort zone into your growth zone, that expands the growth zone further into the danger zone. So you are getting closer to some of the things that maybe previously used to terrify you, but you're doing it in a way where you are in control, you're seeing positive growth, and you're enjoying it. So in 6 months' time, if you do that gradually, you will be in a your comfort zone will be significantly bigger, and what was in the danger zone is less scary. So those are things that you could do. But I also recommend doing your skills audit that we've talked about, and just challenging those thoughts that you have and thinking, where's that come from? Where has that belief that I've carried around in me for so long come from, and is it true? I mean, I've had clients who've described themselves in a certain way, or I'm so clumsy, or I'm always so disorganized. And so I ask them, I say, well, okay, great. What is the last clumsy or disorganized things that you've done? And they couldn't think of anything. But this label had stuck with them for decades, because somebody once said to them, you're so clumsy, you're so disorganized, and they believed it. And then that perpetuates that behavior and that feeling. And when you go, actually, I'm not disorganized, or I'm not clumsy, it's like suddenly that thought, that barrier that's been holding you back, that self-limiting belief has gone. And that's fabulously liberating.
Impressive. But I think you touched on my next question. Actually, it was about how can we bring ourselves back and find a place of calm. So it's by challenging yourself, by asking questions, isn't it? So we ask the same question, but how did it come from, right? Or where did it come from?
Yeah,
Isn't
I mean,
it the way?
yeah, to understand what's going in, because a lot of our automatic actions are in our subconscious. We're not even aware that we're doing them, thinking them, feeling them. It's like learning to drive a car. When you first learn to drive a car, you remember every gear change, every indicator move. It's a conscious decision and process to do that. But once you're a confident driver, it happens automatically. And the same thing happens within our mindsets. There was a moment, maybe a challenge that you may have struggled with, and you had to be really conscious of what it was that you were doing, and then that's gone into automatic behavior. Now, if that was an unhelpful reaction or response, then that's kind of logged there in the database in your mind, and that's what your subconscious is drawing on. So it's being conscious of things that we do, but also using those grounding techniques that we talked about before, because being relaxed is the antidote to anxiety. You can't physically be anxious and relaxed at the same time. So if you're feeling anxious, you have to counterbalance that with relaxation, because they cancel each other out. Likewise, you can't be relaxed if you're anxious. So relaxation, it is not just a nice to have, it's a must have, because that then gets your mind and your body back in sync and not on automatic pilot, not where your subconscious is taking over and just reacting to a situation, where you're avoiding that physical reflex kicking in. And it's breathing, it's mindfulness, it's asking yourself some challenging questions, and then when you get the answers, is making sure you act on those things. But yeah, relaxation is going to counteract anxiety. And the ways you can do it, you find whatever suits you: meditation, cooking, doing an activity, coloring in, knitting, gardening, walking your dog. There are so many things that you can do that ground you into the moment. It doesn't have to be sitting in front of a candle meditating. It can be going out and doing that weeding in the garden that you've been putting off for so long, but you have to be focused when you're weeding, and it'll bring you right into the present. So it's finding what it is for you, sitting down, stroking a cat, watching your favorite TV show, whatever it is, don't overlook that stage of the process, because that's where you will calm yourself and gain greater clarity and be able to then think about how you're going to expand your comfort zone into your growth zone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Annette. I have another question, if that's okay with you. We hadn't
Yeah.
planned that. I'm conscious, but if you want to share with us a little bit more about procrastination. So procrastination, how do we counterbalance procrastination? We
Oh,
procrastinate. Humans do that, right?
oh gosh,
And
yes. And
yeah,
I
if
have a
I
to
don't want, I want to do the dishes, right? That's
yeah.
procrastination. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I have a to-do list. I love a to-do list, but it's as long as your arm, and there are things up, that have been on there for many, many months. Procrastination. Most people are guilty of this, and it's a fear, actually. It's a fear of tackling those topics, or those things that you need to do, where you're not fully confident as to how you're going to perform in them. But with any fear, the longer you leave it unresolved, the bigger it becomes, and things blow out of proportion. So my advice with procrastination, and often things I have to say to myself, is just do it. And to fear the fear, and to feel the fear, and do it anyway. And so my technique is a to-do list often isn't done in priority order, or if it is, you put the things you don't want to do way at the bottom. I suggest switching that around and getting that out the way, because the fear of something is often greater than the reality of doing it. And the sense of achievement that you get once you've done that difficult task, or you've made that difficult phone call, or sent that email that you've been putting off, the relief and the satisfaction far outweighs the fear of not doing that. So I recommend people look at the things, because there will be aspects of your life where there's no procrastination. You just get on and do stuff. So what is it about those things that is different to the things that we procrastinate about? And if it's things where we lack information, then let's educate ourselves. Let's find out how something works. So is it a fear, or is it a lack of skills as to what we need to do? And if it's a fear, then I recommend get it out the way, do it, because the fear is far greater than the reality.
Amazing. So another step and another action here on the list for
Yeah,
everybody to take action, to move forward, basically.
you've got to
Move
keep
on with what
moving forward. Yeah.
absolutely with what we have to do if we want to do what we want to do, right? So there is a positive, not a positive, but there is a reason. So there is the goal at the end
Yeah.
of why we're doing what we're doing, anyways. Well, Annette, we are at the last minutes of our episode. So if you want to share with us, if you're running any workshops or webinars, or if you have a resource or anything that you want to share with the audience, you are more than welcome. So the space is yours.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Joanna. Gosh, that time went quickly. Yes, no, I'm Annette Williams, and my business is Silverbrook Hypnotherapy. So if you want to check out a little bit more about what I do and the type of hypnotherapy that I specialize in, then please check out my website, which is silverbrookhhypnotherapy.co.uk. You can connect with me I'm mainly on LinkedIn and Instagram. So I'm Annette Williams Silverbrook on LinkedIn, and I'm Silverbrook_hypnotherapy on Instagram. And also, I've got a really helpful resource. If you go to my website or check out in the link in my bio on Instagram, it's 5 practical, proven, effective tips to boost your confidence in just 5 minutes. So tips that I have used with people just before they've gone live on air, or about to go and do a big presentation, or before they go into a job interview. 5 simple techniques that will, a bit like the breathing that we talked about, but some other actions in there that can really help ground you. And obviously, by signing up and getting that free guide, we can then be connected, and you'll continue to get my tips and advice that I share through my newsletter. But help is there. And if there's something that's blocking your confidence, or something that's not allowing you to speak up, stand out, then find some help to achieve that. Because when you do, life opens up in the most remarkable way.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Annette. Please do share the link of your resource in the thread.
I will. I'll pop it in.
Comment. Yeah. Share it there or on Instagram, wherever you want. Once we broadcast the episode, so that will be amazing. Thank you so much for being such a valuable guest today. I think I've come away with practical steps, so that's pretty good. So take them on board and ready to implement. I'm ready to go, basically.
Good.
So I hope
Pleased to hear it.
the audience. Yeah, amazing. So I hope the audience has taken on board your insights and your advice on how to get on with things, basically, and stop procrastinating. Amazing. Thank you again for being a guest speaker today, and everybody who has watched this live. Thank you so much for tuning in. Rewatch the replay and check out the link with the resource link from Annette, which will be under the thread soon as we close down the call. Tune in next week for another episode of Moving Women Forward Community. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye bye.
Take care.